Before we get started, I want to invite you to something I'm really excited about. We have our next Rehab Chiro Mastermind Live event coming up this September in New Jersey. If you're a regular listener and you've been enjoying what we teach on this podcast, this is an opportunity you won't want to miss. You can find the registration link and all the details in the show notes. Now, let's get to today's episode.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the ANJC podcast. I am your host, Dr. Mike Aiken. Today, I'm thrilled to have on the show Dr. Justin Rabinowitz. Doc, how are we doing today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you for having me. I appreciate being here.
Doc, talk to people about your journey. How did you become a chiropractor? And then I've got a couple of questions that I've worked on to ask you after that. So tell people your origin story.
Yeah, so actually it started like many I hear in high school. I actually was playing football. I went to Bridgewater High School in New Jersey, and I got kneed in the back during a football game and fractured my transverse process. And the injury healed at the time, but I remember thinking, I didn't know the medical side of it, but what I knew was that they put me in a back brace for like 4 weeks, and legitimately I took the back brace off on a Thursday and I played on a Friday. And I just remember thinking to myself, like, I don't know, this just doesn't seem legit. Now, the thing was, I was actually fine for a while, but it got me starting to be interested in the human body and like what was actually happening. Now, the ironic or unironic part is when I actually decided later on to get into the health field, I chose to become a chiropractor. I was playing basketball in chiropractic school, and I came down from a layup and I had complete loss of feeling in my big toe. So I literally extruded a disc in chiropractic school to the point that I had to get surgery so I didn't have foot drop. And so the starting journey was the injury and like just understanding, just having that feeling that something was off, and then getting injured again, and then really seeing like what the medical system was and wasn't at the time, really cemented how I practice, and really that there were people out there like me that just needed something different, something more than traditional medicine. You know, even when I had surgery, I remember after asking the surgeon, I said, so when I'm done, should I go to like chiro or rehab or PT? And I'll never forget, he goes, no, you're going to be good. And again, I just remember thinking like, wow, like there's something off here. And so that journey over a course of what it was 6 or 7 years at the time, not only got me into the health profession, but then cemented exactly why I do what I do.
Wow. So no rehab, follow-up, nothing. You're good to go.
Yeah. I mean, and I actually remember I have it over here on my shelf when I was in school after I did the surgery. That time I was like halfway through chiro school, so I had like kind of an idea, and I started a journal of doing exercise and rehab. And, you know, my practice is very rehab based, but I was at the time just like, okay, they told me not to do anything, so I'll just try stuff on my own. And that was how I started. I was like patient zero type of thing.
Pretty wild. Where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to Ramapo College in New Jersey, and I was a baseball player there. I was going to play football or baseball in college, had this injury as a senior in high school, and that was kind of the ending of my football career. So I decided to play baseball.
Cool. All right. So let's get into this. So What are your biggest business pressures that you see right now for chiropractors in New Jersey specifically?
Yeah. So I always go back to the Warren Buffett idea, who's like one of the richest men in history. And he says that he never invests in any business that he can't control price, which I think is just a great maxim for us as doctors and chiros, that independent of how we feel about insurance or anything like that, it's just the business is tough when we don't have control over price. I think everyone here understands that in the last 5, 6, 7 years, the cost of business, the cost of employees, the cost of rent, the cost of home has gone up, but a lot of times with insurance, it's gone down. And a lot of the things I do now, and I coach other chiros, and new people in New Jersey will appreciate this tremendously. Back in 2016, 15, a time when at the time being out of network paid really well with certain insurances, and then one day it just all went away. And that was what my experience was, which was how I got started in this business side of things. So taking it back to today, I think the same challenges that we had 10 years ago of that the price of our services that we don't control either with insurance or not is there's a lot of pressure that doctors are having right now, where again, rent's gone up, the cost of staff has gone up, using AI tokens, everything's gone up, but reimbursement and the cost of our services and what we charge people hasn't. And so it gives us very few options, and we feel really squeezed and stressed. How are we going to make it? So I think it's been the problem for a long time, and honestly, it's gotten worse and not better.
Justin, that's a really profound quote by Buffett. Can you repeat that one more time?
Yeah. So Warren Buffett says, I'll never invest in a business where I can't control the price.
Yeah, I think that is so important. Yeah. The other thing that you said, like with rent and payroll and cost of living in New Jersey skyrocketing, why is it becoming harder for chiropractors to survive in that old high volume insurance model?
I think, so we always say there's only three. So this is business 101. There's only three ways to grow a business. The first thing is you can get more new customers. The second way is to charge more money. And the third way is to sell those customers more things. And so if those are the only three ways to get to build a business, if you are taking insurance or you can't raise price, it takes one of those out. And so now you're only down to two. You're either going to add other services, or you're just going to continue to see more volume. And so what started as 4 patients an hour, then went to 5. 5 went to 6. 6 went to 7. 7 went to 8. Like at some point that doesn't work anymore. And I've talked to practice owners in New Jersey and New York specifically, where we have these conversations and I ask them what they're going to do. And it's like, I'm just going to continue to add more volume. And where does that end? It's expensive to get new customers. It's expensive to do marketing. And then if you have that many more clients, then at some point there's only so many the doctor one can see. Well, then we have to add another doctor, and that's another payroll and expense. And so I think if you look at it and say, all right, there's only 3 ways. We can't usually control price. We're either going to build another business to sell them other things. Well, that's really hard. The easiest but most painful thing is just more volume, more volume, more volume, more volume. And again, there's only so many hours in the day. And even if you spend a few minutes with patients, there's only so many people you can see in a finite period of time.
True. Very, very, very true. Now, you coach other chiropractors, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
So what do you say to a chiropractor who is like clinically excellent, busy all day, but they still feel like there's not enough money left at the end of the month?
We're recording this at 1:10, and at 12 o'clock I made a video for my YouTube and my Instagram page doing this exact thing. And unfortunately, it's a story that I hear all the time, that chiropractors, where it's like there's someone out there that's listening to this, is like, I don't understand. I know the other chiropractors in my town, and I give a better service and I'm better at clinically than them, and I probably get better results, but I just can't make ends meet at the end of the month. And I think that the challenge, and this, I'm going to go deep a little bit here, but the challenge that many of us face is, we went to school to become doctors, to become healers, to become healthcare providers. But unfortunately, I think many people realize either it stares at them, back at them, or not, but that skill set, unfortunately, only can take you so far. And at some point, in order to go from being a solid provider and essentially owning your job and seeing patients to building a life that you want with freedom and more money in your pocket and time on your calendar, that's going to require another skill set, which often makes us kind of shift our identity, for lack of a better term. We have to go from being a chiropractor who happens to own a business to becoming a business owner who happens to be a chiropractor. And that entails making sure that we understand marketing and how to lead people and how to hire and all of these things that unfortunately many chiros didn't go to school to become. And I get it. I think our profession is quite unique in that our medical counterparts, many of them can go to school, they graduate, and they can keep that identity as a medical doctor or orthopedic surgeon and work in the big hospital system. And they can do amazingly well by showing up and doing their job and getting patients great results. And they can make a fine living doing that. Our profession generally, as you know, you kind of have to be able to do more than just treat patients. It just isn't one of those where you can go into a hospital system and just show up and do the thing. Like, there has to be more involved, and for better or worse, it's the life that we chose. And I think one that many, unfortunately, have to embrace that haven't yet.
Yeah, it's amazing. At the end of the day, you could be the greatest adjuster that ever lived, but if you're not working as a small business owner on your practice, in addition to working in your practice, it's unfortunate to say, but you're going to fail. you have to work on your business as well. And I want to say the schools don't really, I graduated quite many years ago, 1996, and I think we had one business class, and that was more of an accounting class rather than there really wasn't any social media back then. But and I think this is true in talking to other doctors in other professions, they don't have the opportunity to work on their business.
100%.
So I agree with everything that you've said. Next question I have written down. How can chiropractors start moving toward a more cash-based and out-of-network model without feeling like they're abandoning their patients or becoming like quote-unquote salesy?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think a lot of it becomes how it's framed and how it's seen. So one of my first clients I ever coached was in Jacksonville, Florida, and he had bought a practice that was like a high volume personal injury, and he didn't want to do that forever. But for the first few years of owning the practice, he kind of just kept things the same, which is usually a good strategy. To just kind of, it worked, so he kept going with it. And I think at the time, I can't remember the exact numbers, but let's say there were certain patients that were like grandfathered in at $30 for like a session or something like ridiculously low. And one day he finally was so nervous. He's like, I have to raise their price. Like, I can't do it. Like, I'm going, like, this isn't going to work. And so he goes in and he raises their price. And I get on a call with him after. I'm like, what happened? How did it go? He goes, you'll never believe it. I said, what? He said, they thanked me. I was like, what do you mean they thanked you? And he said that they looked at me and they said, we know that you kept our price low because the other doctor did that. And you did it for so long. And we know that like you didn't have to do that. And so we really appreciate that. And I always remember that story sticking with me because what I've seen time and time again is for the right people who value what you've done, they get it. For the wrong ones, they're never going to get it no matter what you do. And so the way that we talk about it here is I always say the truth sets you free. We started this conversation with saying for chiros that are like their price and it's low or they're taking insurance, there's only so much, they're going to be able to stay in business by only doing a certain amount of things, which is usually volume. And if you don't want to play that game, the reality is it's for the patient as much as it is for you. And so the conversation or that I need to have with the doctor first is to say, well, what's your other option right now? Well, I can do what I'm doing now. Well, we know that's not working. Okay. So then you can treat more patients, but I don't want to do that because I don't want to sacrifice the quality of care. Okay. So why don't we tell them that? Why don't we say that in order for us to maintain the quality that you've come to love and expect, in order for me to go home at night, lay my head on a pillow and say, I got into this to genuinely help people. This is the way that it has to be. It's not ideal. Listen, you and I both know it would be so much easier if third party just paid everything, got what we wanted, we could treat people. That would be amazing, but life doesn't work that way. And so going back, the reframe is we're doing this for them, not to them. We are moving out of insurance or whatever the case may be, because we want to continue to offer the highest level of care and service you come to expect. Because at this point, the other two options, number one, I have more volume, your quality of care will go down, not willing to do that. Or eventually I go out of business and my family doesn't eat. That won't work either for anyone. And so it becomes the option for them, not to them, in order to continue to offer the same quality and service that they've come to expect over the last months, years.
Brilliant. Love that. What mistake do you think chiropractors make communicating value to their patients?
Great question. I think that the number one mistake is that, I use this term endearingly, chiros, doctors, we're nerds. Like, we love our thing, we love our stuff, we love the machines, we love the technique. And because of that, we believe that in order to justify, air quotes, charging the right price or raising price, that we need to add something else or have a new bell and whistle or something like that. But what I found the vast majority of the time is that logically makes sense, but the problem is most of us are undercharging tremendously anyway. And so most of the time we just have to get to a reasonable number, a reasonable rate to be able to run the business as we should. So I think the number one mistake is thinking that we really have to justify it. And many times the reason why we do it is because it is the absolute best thing to do for the business. And it's like going back to where we started of one of the things I coach people on is they come into my world oftentimes and they're undercharging, and it's bad. Like it's very low. So we have to do this big increase just to get them like standard. But I had a conversation last week with a doctor in Wisconsin, and she told me that she was about to do a price rise, and she'd sit down with her staff and just have this big presentation about why we're doing it, this whole like song and dance. And I said to her, we can do that. I said, but what about over time, we just treat this like anything else in life, where I don't know about you, but like every year I get a notice, my property tax goes up. And it's like, all right, get it, right? And then the next year, like my insurance goes up and this goes up and that goes up. And again, it's not ideal, but this is how the world works. And so I think sometimes we're the last ones to take care of that. But we always say it's happening to us, make it happen for us. It isn't that we're trying to be greedy. It's that we end up, the problem we have is like everything else in our life moved up, all of the expenses, but we're 5, 6, 7 years behind, where the reality is every quarter, every 6 months, every year, we should be, and my CFO is edging up as the marketplace dictates. I own some rental properties every year in New Brunswick. They tell us like as the landlord, how much can we raise rent? It's rent controlled. So, but every year, sometimes it's 3%, sometimes it's 4%, sometimes it's 5%, sometimes it's 2%. But that is like normal standard practice. And so I think that the biggest thing for us is, again, it's like this should be a normal thing that every 3, 6, 9, 12 months as a standard practice, just like we are going to look at how's our clinical care and how's our patient files and how's our inbox and all these things that we maintain and manage, how's our price? Is it time to bump? And I think if we did that, it would just become a normal part of what we do. And it wouldn't be this dramatic, like emotional thing, which I think so many doctors and healers get stuck in like that side of it.
I agree with you. And I have friends of mine, I've been practicing for 30 years. They haven't changed their prices in 20 years. Mm-hmm. And we're not living in that world. It is not 2000. It's 2026. Yeah. And they're shortchanging themselves. They're working actually harder for less buying power, less dollars. Mm-hmm. That's kind of crazy. Let me ask you a question. Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to a New Jersey chiropractor that wants, let's say, more income and more freedom and doesn't want to sacrifice, and we've talked about this, like their clinical excellence or patient trust?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that essentially what you're asking me is, how do we get it all?
How do we get it all?
How do we get it all? And I can tell you that from the day, so I started chiropractic in 2009, graduated 2012, and I remember being in chiro school. So we have a bit of a unique practice setup where we spend up to an hour with patients, which is crazy. Like it's very high touch, rehab based exercise. So that's like our setup. But I remember being in chiro school at the time, and I remember thinking that it seemed like in our profession you had to choose. You were either going to make a lot of money and run like these high volume, sometimes even unethical, like crazy practices. And I was like, that's not for me. I'm not mad at it, but that doesn't seem for me. But then the problem was on the other side, where we were offering high level care and we were clinically excellent, and we did that. Those people wouldn't make any money. And I remember thinking, this is myself, 25, 26 years old, back in 2010, 11, thinking like, why do I have to choose? And I think that the first thing that I would tell people before I tell you tactically what you should do, who to hire and this to charge and all of that, I think as a 25-year-old, I was like, I look back at myself, I'm like, yeah, pretty good of just that mindset of I'm not willing to compromise and sacrifice that. Now, there will be compromises and sacrifices I will have to make. What we do and what we charge people and what we have to learn a different skill set. So I've had to sacrifice and learn a lot of business things. I've had to learn how to market. I've had to learn how to hire and lead a team. Like the chiros, I have 2 chiros on staff right now. One is from Minnesota, one is from Florida. I've had to recruit nationally because what we do is so unique. And so I've had to make trade-offs in that capacity where we built this organization and this team. But I would say, if I was standing in front of a room of 100 that were asking me this question, I would just say, the first thing is you have to decide that you don't have to choose, that you can make more money and you can actually build a life where you have the time you want and you can treat patients and not have to sacrifice. In fact, what I would tell you is, in my experience now, after being in practice 15 years, is that what we do is it's not cheap. It's not for everyone, but there are people, I promise you, that like they thank us for what we do because they couldn't get this anywhere else. And it's unique in the marketplace. And so I would tell everyone out there to think they don't have to be all things to all people. There is a certain group of people that for what you do, whatever it is that that you charge the right price, you show up and you treat them the way they want. And you can have both. So I think first, before anything, it's just to recognize that all the stuff out there, it's bogus, that you don't have to decide. You can make money and build a world-class practice. It just means you're probably going to have to learn a skill set that you never thought you would.
Awesome. Doc, can you talk to me a little bit about the rehab chiro coach? What does that look like?
Yeah, so it was quite simple. I built a coaching program that I never had, and so when I started my practice, after about 2 years, I was like kind of struggling to figure out where I wanted to go, and so I had looked into a lot of coaching companies as chiros. The challenge was they weren't wrong and they weren't bad. It was just the model that I had at the time. I was doing 30-minute appointments or an hour appointment and doing a lot of exercise and rehab in addition to my adjusting and soft tissue work. The coaching, it was good, but it didn't match my style. And so what I had to do was go outside of the profession, and I ended up in a lot of like physical therapy, cash-based masterminds where I would learn there. So I'd be the unicorn chiro in this room. And it was great. And I made friends there and it was amazing for me. But I was like, well, why doesn't this exist for me? And so when I built my practice, which still runs today, at some point after about 5 or 6 years, people started to ask, like, how'd you do that? And so it organically started. It was something that I always thought I could do, but people started asking me. And so we have this little old practice in Martinsville, New Jersey, which now I get like goosebumps thinking about it. We have people flying in from all over the US and Canada to see like, oh, this is where they did it now. And so we've had people in 48 states take our program. We have doctors in Canada, and the craziest part, the internet is a crazy place. We've had 2 doctors in Singapore and 1 in Australia. And so
Awesome.
It's amazing. But it started as like, hey, this is what I wished I would have had. And so we have live events here in New Jersey where we have 100 to 150 chiros that are coming in from everywhere. And it's a beautiful thing of getting a community of people together where for many of us, we've finally found our people and people that have developed relationships as chiros from Portland, Oregon and Seattle, Washington and Boca Raton. And so, it's just been it's an amazing ride. It's been like 4 years of us doing it, and it's beyond my wildest dreams of what it's ever become. But again, it just started with it was just what I wished I would have had to help.
That is sweet. You filled your own need, which is how most things happen in this world. We have an itch that we have to scratch, and then we realize, wait a minute, I need to share this with the world, and that's what we do. Doc, where can people find you?
Yeah. So we put out a lot of content on my personal Instagram page. So my name at Justin Rabinowitz, Rabinowitz. I've also authored 3 books. 2 of them are practice building. So one of them is Rehab Chiro Biz, which basically takes my whole business philosophy. You can find that one on Amazon. And then we have my new book is called Rehab Chiro Marketing Blueprint, which if you go on my Instagram, we're doing a giveaway now. We can get a free copy of the PDF there. So those are my 2 business books. And then I have a business book that I wrote for my practice, but we try to put out a lot of free information. I have a podcast too, Business School for the Rehab Chiro. We release weekly episodes. So you can find me in any of those places, but there's a lot of resources for free for people that are interested.
That's great, Doc. That's awesome. I'll make sure that's in the show notes.
Can I just say one more thing?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Just because like people, I message you this, and people, what I do in coaching often get a bad rap. It's like you couldn't run the business, so you started coaching. But my practice strives to move. It runs today. It is still fully functional. We have managing partners who run that as well. And I just think that, again, I just wanted to say that because probably that doesn't exist. My coaching doesn't exist if that didn't work. So it is really just it is an extension of that. So for anyone out there wondering, like, yeah, we still have a practice, still runs, still operating. I'm here recording in my house, and that is about 6 miles down the street, seeing patients all day.
That's nice. I've done before I did the A&JC podcast, I had my own podcasting company. We haven't done a podcast in 5 years, done over 500 of them. We're still top 5% in the world. People love and crave information. I look for nuggets whenever I'm talking to somebody. You've brought us quite a few golden nuggets today, which I greatly appreciate.
Thank you.
What do you want to say before we get off to our audience?
I remember being a student, and I remember actually feeling really comfortable about coming back home to New Jersey, because I remember that thinking and being told that there were so many high-level chiros in our state, specifically for me in the sports and rehab niche. And I think that's true. And I would say I don't treat patients much anymore, but I've kept specifically my ANJC membership. And one reason was and is because of what it provided for me early on. And more so than anything tactically, it was always like hope. Because when I was in school and when I graduated, there was a lot of docs that I spent time with, interned with Greg Dorr and spent time with Ira Shapiro, like some of the OGs, the Olympic, those guys,
Yes.
like, some of them have retired since. But I just remember that was something that gave me a ton of hope. And when I was looking to graduate chiropractic school, I remember thinking, why would I not go back where I know people have been successful doing the things that I want to do? So I think for our audience out there, or our New Jersey chiros, to just there should be a level of pride in what our state has, because it is really good. Even my two docs that. I'm not a big association person. Like, I've never been involved in a lot of stuff, but I told them when they joined, like, you should be, they do a really good job, specifically ANJC. You guys don't pay me to say this, but you guys do a phenomenal job in our profession. And I remember dealing with some of the insurance craziness back in the day, and it was like, man, they saved my butt a ton of time. So if you're out there, just, I would say, continue to support, and there should be a sense of pride in what our state has as chiros, because it is really good.
Absolutely. Really appreciate you coming on the show today. So for Dr. Rabinowitz and myself, I'd like to say thank you. Have a great day. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.